Gravel riding. It's all about the experience, right? Getting from A to B and escaping it all. It's a million miles away from training plans, intervals, watts, and all those things you'd commonly associate with road riding. However, could fitting a power meter benefit you in ways you hadn't thought of previously? We're going to have a little look. The gravel racing is exploding at the moment, and road pros are coming over onto the rough stuff to see what they can do. And with it, they're bringing their roadie training tactics, including riding with power. Now, these tactics can be anything from long, low intensity interval sessions, which will help build their base power, or shorter, high intensity efforts to increase their top end sprint ability. Most pro athletes' coaches will be providing them with a structured training plan, which will be executed by the riders using their power meters to track their progress. So if you're interested in a more structured training plan whilst you're off-road, a power meter could prove to be a valuable tool. Now, we're going to have a look at some of the reasons and the benefits and the differences about what you need to be looking for when you do take a power meter off-road. Perhaps the most famous function of power meters is allowing you to pace your effort, meaning that you don't overcook it at the start and means you're able to push out as many watts towards the end as well. Now, pacing off-road can be really different compared to on the road, and that's because, if you're going up a really steep climb, you might need to give it an all-out effort literally just to keep the wheels moving, and then you're just going to be trying to spin and trying to survive. And in those instances, really, keeping your eyes up, looking where you're going, and just trying to take the cleanest line is guaranteed to be much faster. But with that said, if you are planning an off-road adventure, maybe a bike packing trip or, smooth gravel adventure, being able to pace your efforts then is going to be massively valuable, because by introducing higher intensity efforts into your training, inevitably you'll bring up your base level of fitness, which will enable you to ride further and faster, more comfortably. Now, one of the most valuable features of a power meter is that it allows you to accurately track your training load. Now, this is calculated using your distance and duration, and obviously how hard you are pushing on those pedals to give you an accurate number. This is going to give you a valuable insight into your fitness and allow you to see when you might have been putting in too many hard sessions and when you need to get in some recovery. A well-structured training plan is going to have you riding in a number of different zones being the different brackets of power output ranging from 1 to 7. Now, on the road, that's not actually too difficult to do, because bar with the odd junction or traffic lights, it's going to be fairly easy to ride in a consistent zone, be that a really hard effort or, just a nice, easy zone 2 climb. Now, once you do fit a power meter to your bike and you do some local loops, you're going to start to learn which are the high intensity loops and which are the kind of the lower, more threshold kind of loops. Then, that way, once you have a really good idea of, what's going to be a really hard effort and what's going to be more moderate, you can then start to build in those rides into a training plan and say, right, okay, I need to go do a hard effort, I'll go do the hard loop. Or you can be like, right, I need a bit of recovery, we'll just stick to something a bit more threshold or, zone 2, zone 3. If you are thinking of getting into gravel racing, knowing what a sustained effort or sprint feels like is going to be massively useful. Now, a heart rate monitor can be pretty similar to a power meter in gauging your effort on the road. That only tends to really work on longer efforts when your heart rate has enough time to actually increase. On the short spiky climbs, which off-road riding, as I said earlier, has a lot of, your heart rate doesn't have enough time to really quantify that effort. So this is where a power meter comes in really handy. Because it's going to be tracking all of the power that you're putting out, no matter if it's long or short, it's going to build up a much fuller image of that training load. And it's usually those short spiky climbs that make a ride much more potent. If you're just going off heart rate data and you aren't really recording those shorter efforts, you could be putting a massive training load on yourself without it being recorded. So this is where a power meter comes in way above a heart rate monitor in terms of accurately tracking your training load, which is something you want to stay on top of so you don't overcook it. Really, the question should be, is it worth the cost? Up until recently, I probably would have said no, with SRM's X-Power SBD single-sided power meter costing $899. But with Garmin having released their rally pedals costing about £620 and 4i with their single-sided crank arm-based system at $350, the prices are now a lot more on par with their road counterparts, making them a bit more accessible. We think for these prices, fitting a power meter to your gravel bike is an excellent upgrade if you're of that performance-oriented mindset. And a structured training plan with good numbers is probably going to make for a better upgrade and make you faster than, say, using that equivalent money on some new wheels. So the only thing you really need to be aware of is that if you do move into using a power meter, understanding the data is going to take a little bit of time, but when you get your head around it, it's really going to be very valuable. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments about using a power meter off-road. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I'll see you again very soon.